You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk's College Sports Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight on the, I was going to say on the eve of March Madness, which it really is, the NCAA tournament. But March Madness really began with the conference tournaments and even with the first four, which was played last night, a couple of games last night, which we'll talk about quickly. And a couple tonight. Let's see. So, we got through some there were some fun and some exciting and interesting conference tournaments. Penn State with a great run in the Big Ten to solidify their spot in the tournament, eventually losing to Purdue in the final, and Purdue showing that they've maybe overcome their late season swoon. What else? Memphis destroying Houston, really. Played them the entire game. Houston tried to battle back at the end, and Houston battled well, playing without their best player, Sasser, in the final. That'll be a big question mark for Houston as we head into the tournament as well, whether he plays and how well he can play, assuming he does. We're going to drive. I want to welcome everybody who's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and wherever else you're watching tonight. Also, you'll see us on Northeast Streaming Sports, simulcasting on Let's Talk Sports, and TGI Sports Talk as well. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking and sharing the show. Continue to do that. Get your friends involved in liking TGI Sports Talk. And let's see who's with us early tonight. Augustin, how are you tonight? Haven't seen much of you during the college basketball season. Unfortunately, your Oregon Ducks went out in the Big Ten tournament. Dana Altman, now without a tournament appearance in the last few years, may start to feel some heat up there in Oregon. Good evening to Dave Guyette. How have you been? Been busy working, it says. Dave's a big Yankee fan. We'll talk more about the Yankees on the Sunday Stream and Consciousness every Sunday, so make sure you tune into that. And also, Are You Serious? So good to see you're working and keeping busy, David. Talk about Gonzaga Bulldogs. We will talk about the Gonzaga. Listen, we're going to talk about every NCAA team tonight. I'm going to go through the entire bracket. I'm going to talk about the top seeds, who's got a chance to win. We're going to go through the bracket. You'll see my entire bracket, and I'll make some changes tonight. Augustin, if you haven't gone to join our bracket pool, please do so. If you go to, in fact, I'll do it right now. Let me do something real quick here. If you go to Let's Talk, you can go to Let's Talk Sports. You can go to TGI Sports Talk, and you can find the link to the tournament, the bracket challenge, the TGI Sports Talk bracket challenge. But also put it in here for now, if I can. There we go. So there you've got a link right there. It'll take you to it. Sign up, fill out your brackets, and I'll post it again before the show is out again today. So I'm not sure why I get every place I share it to. So you get a bunch of, sorry about that, guys. You get a bunch of different responses there. I can't respond as one entity. I've got to respond to every place that I share the show to. So yes, we're going to talk about Gonzaga. And listen, I tried to kill Gonzaga, as did a lot of people during the course of this year, that they weren't as good as they'd been. They weren't as talented offensively, guards play especially. But Drew Timme has brought this team to a third seed, and I've got them in some of my brackets. We'll see if I keep them there today. I've got them in the Final Four, and in some of my brackets in the final. But we won't give away too much just yet. So feel free to grab that. I know, right? So anyway, click any one of those 20 links I just put in there. A lot of storylines going into the tournament, right? Alabama and their, off the court problems. Bill Self, will he be healthy enough? We now know he had 2 stents put in with a heart procedure the other night. Norm Roberts, who filled in for him during the Big 8 tournament. Kansas played well, losing to Texas in the final, but Texas is a good team. So you've got those storylines. You've got the UMBC coach, Ryan Odom, who upset the only 16 ever to beat a number 1 when he beat Virginia here a few years ago. He's now coaching at Utah State, and he's back in a familiar underdog role, albeit as a 10 seed this time. We'll talk about the Utah State team, which I like, at least to win 1 game. So there's a lot of storylines here. We got some new coaches that we'll talk about if we have time, but let's jump in, shall we? And just look quickly at all of these teams. I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. I just had all my, I just had up what I wanted to look at. Now I lost it. So good for me, right? Here we go. Alabama, the overall number 1 seed. Again, you can't assess the Alabama team and their chances to win this tournament without mentioning everything that's happened off the court. Darius Miles has now been indicted for the murder of Jamea Harris. Very sad story. There's also the Brandon Miller on the team, their best player, freshman, projected number 5 pick in the NBA draft, who, now has got security to follow him around here to these sites for the NCAA. So that's going to be an interesting situation. But Alabama's probably the best team in the country. This is a team that's got just 2 losses in a very good league in the SEC. And it's just one of 3 teams in the last 3 seasons to beat Houston on its home floor. So the ceiling is very high. But the floor, if they've lost their focus, now they didn't play the SEC tournament like they lost their focus, but they better be careful. I've got them going out fairly early, and we'll talk about that when we get to the brackets themselves. The Houston Cougars. Houston is the number 2 overall seed. I've got them in a couple of brackets. Let me get back to my bracket. I'll tell you where I have these teams going out right now. How far I have them going right now. I've got Alabama making it actually to the let's see, where do I have them going to? Final 4. Right now it's a Final 4 pick for me. Houston. I've actually, interestingly enough, I've got Iowa beating Houston in the second round because I'm not sure about Sasser. I think Iowa's a team to watch out for. We'll go through all these picks in a second. Actually, while we're doing this, we'll do these teams' games. I've got Alabama beating Texas A&M Community College. Corpus Christi, sorry. That wasn't fair. They won their game last night. Over who they beat. Let me get to the scoreboard here. These games last night were tough to watch, man. That first game last night, Southwestern Missouri and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, who I'm just talking about, there was so many fouls in this game. Southeast Missouri State, barely, I thought they were going to finish the game with about 3 guys. Everybody has seemed to have 4 fouls or fouled out by the end of the game. But Texas Corpus Christi did end up winning 75-71. But Alabama's going to beat them. And Houston's going to beat up on Northern Kentucky pretty well as well, I think. So that first round matchup, I think, will be fairly easy for these schools. And put your comments up, guys. I will continue to come back to them as we go forward here. The other number 1 seeds, Kansas. Look at Kansas. Lost a lot last year. They lost, I'm going to say his name wrong, Agbaji. They lost Christian Braun. They were both first-round picks in the NBA draft last year. But he's assembled another, Bill Self has assembled another strong roster. Jalen Wilson led the way with almost 20 points a game. Grady Dick, Kevin McCullough Jr. has hit his stride down the stretch here. This team has played well. But Couple issues here. They don't shoot well from three, or haven't, at least in the last month of the season. Excuse me, guys. I'm still battling some health issues here. Plus, they're a team that fouls a lot, and they're not very deep. They do foul a lot. And you've got Bill Self's situation as well. But I would say Kansas is certainly going to get by Howard. And I've got them losing to Arkansas in the second round. So we've got some upsets here. And right now I'm not going to change them. We'll see when we go through the entire bracket, but I'm not inclined to change it. Purdue. Matt Painter has said for a long time that Zach Edey was the most dominant force in college basketball. He looks like a lumbering guy, but he's fairly athletic for a big guy. He's not that quick, but he finds a way to get his shot off. He did average 21 points a game, 12 rebounds, almost 13 rebounds, and even 2 or 3 blocks a game. Purdue started to find their they seem to have lost their edge a little bit near the end of the season, but I think they refound it in that Big Ten tournament. So Purdue is a dangerous number one. I've got them winning their first game, obviously, against the winner of FDU and Texas. Which Texas game is that one? Let's see. That's tonight. That's Texas Southern. Sorry, Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern, and also Arizona State will play Nevada in the late game tonight. I'm looking forward to that game. 2 11 seeds. I think that's going to be a good game. I like Nevada to win that game, and I do like Fairleigh Dickinson to win the first game. So we'll say Purdue over Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round. But again, another number 1 seed. I've got 3 number 1 seeds going out in the second round, unless I make some changes before tomorrow. I got Purdue losing to Memphis, a red-hot Memphis team. I like Memphis to get a long ways in this tournament and finally lose to Marquette, I believe, in the regional final. But we'll take a look at some of that going forward as well. What do you got here, Dave? How do I think UConn will do during the tournament? We're going to get to them in a second. They do play Friday in Albany at 4:30. Actually, I think that game – just check the times. Do I have the times here? I don't. Let's see. Let's check Friday's schedule here, Dave. I just want to make sure that time is right for that game because I'm not sure that it is. See, Drake and Miami are in Albany. UConn. That's 4:30. You're right. Game's on TBS. Listen, I'll talk about UConn a little bit ahead of time because we got the comment from Dave. UConn's playing really good basketball. I do like UConn to beat Iona, but if Iona gets hot, they press you. You have very little time left on the shot clock because they got a man-to-man press, full court. Rick Pitino puts you through, what Nolan Richardson at Arkansas used to call 40 minutes of hell. And it's hard to get into your offense because you've wasted a lot of the shot clock just getting the ball up the court. And if Iona shoots threes, and they're not very deep, so if they can stay out of foul trouble, Iona could give UConn trouble. I don't think that will happen. I think UConn will win against Iona this week. And Rick Pitino, by the way, we've also got the rumors swirling on Rick Pitino. Likely his last game or games he'll coach at Iona as he'll be moving on either to St. John's or Georgetown or Texas Tech or some other unknown team. I really think St. John's is where he'll end up. So unfortunately, though, Dave, I've got UConn losing in the second round to red-hot VCU team. VCU has won their last, I think, 9 or 10 games, and they've won most of them by double digits. They looked really good in the A-10 tournament. They pulled away in a close game against Dayton on Sunday and made pretty quick work of them in the second half. So I like VCU. VCU is playing really good basketball. So I'm going to have to pick UConn to go out in the second round. But this is also a team that's talented enough to go to a Final Four, to be honest with you. Andre Jackson, who I know, Dave, you are aware, is from Amsterdam, played at Albany Academy here locally, is a great, great defensive player. and can really be a highlight reel at times on offense, sometimes a little undisciplined on offense, but it's the defense that sets Andre Jackson apart from a lot of players. And I think he'll do very, very well here in Albany on Friday. I was going to go. Tickets are just too much for me. I mean, I remember going to the games, again, 30 years ago, probably 1990, 92. We went to the first and second round here in Albany, and it was like $60, and we saw 6 games. Here's what I may do. I'm thinking about seriously doing this. Going down to the TU Center here in Albany on Pearl Street about 7 o'clock when either the Iona losers or the UConn losers are coming out of the building, because there'll be a big crowd here. Remember, Iona is only a couple hours to the south here in Westchester County, in New Rochelle, and UConn's only a couple hours away, obviously near. Where are they? I'm forgetting where they are in Connecticut, but they're not that far away. 3 hours at tops. So there'll be a lot of people here from those two schools. One of them's not going to play anymore that weekend. I may look for somebody who wants to dump their ticket or tickets. So if I do that and I score some, I'll let some people know. What do you got here, Dave? I don't think Jackson's going pro this year. Anything's possible, but I do think he'll be. And if you mean he'll make the NBA eventually, I don't disagree. But I do not think he's leaving after this year. We'll see. Anything's possible in basketball. And Augustin's got his bracket in, so very good for you. Where are we? I should change my banner here, actually. Hold on. Oh, where are we? I didn't even look at the top 25. Anyway, let's look at Texas Longhorns. Did I skip a team? I did. Arizona, we're into the 2 seeds now. Arizona, Tommy Lloyd vowed, second-year head coach Tommy Lloyd, who took over for Sean Miller, who's also going to be back in this tournament with 3 seed Xavier. Sean Miller left in a cloud of in a murky situation, let's just say, at Arizona. And Tommy Lloyd in the second season, he did vow that they continue to play the same style, despite losing 3 of his best players. And they kept it up tempo, top 10 in tempo, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the country this year, averaging nearly 73 possessions a game. That's a lot. And they played very, very well. And Arizona's played well. Now, where do I have Arizona doing in this tournament? I might have Arizona going a little farther than some of the other schools we've talked about so far. Where are they? They're a 2 seed where? Got to find them now. That's the problem with these brackets, me jumping around. Arizona's going to play Princeton. Anybody who's up-tempo who faces Princeton knows that can be a problem. Princeton's got a very deliberate style. They still play a similar offense to what they played when Pete Carell was there, the great Pete Carell. But I think Arizona will be able to handle that. They're coming in as a 2 seed and Princeton as a 15. I do like them to beat Utah State, who I'm going to have winning in the first round. I'm going to have them playing against UC Santa Barbara in the Sweet 16 and winning. And I've got them losing to Alabama in the Elite 8. Hang on one second here. I got a text and I don't know what it's going to be about. Got to keep an eye on something here. So, okay. Baby pictures. Texas. Oh, God. In December, domestic violence allegations were filed against then head coach Chris Beard. Charges were filed, then dropped. He was suspended, then terminated. Assistant coach Rodney Terry took over, former UTEP and Fresno State head coach. And he guided them to a pretty good season. They were playing very well when Chris Beard, who's now the coach at Ole Miss, by the way. And I think Ole Miss and the school that hired Will Wade, it'll come to me. are probably getting used by these two coaches to get back to bigger schools. We'll see how that goes. But Texas did very, very well. Marcus Carr, their best player, and the rest of the team, they connected on 37% of their 3-point attempts in the 4 weeks leading up to the Big 10 tournament or Big 12 tournament. And they end up and they played a bunch of games on the road against Kansas twice. I'm sorry, they had 2 games against Kansas. They played on the road against TCU, Texas Christian, and Baylor. But they suffered just 1 loss in their home arena. So the question is, how well can they play away from home? Because they did lose 7 times away from home. So we'll see what happens here. Texas in their first round match will get Colgate, very good team here in upstate New York, western upstate New York, if you will. But this Colgate team is, well, they may give Texas a little bit of trouble. I see Texas moving on. I see Texas beating Texas A&M. I see Texas beating Xavier in the Sweet 16. And I have Texas beating Iowa in the Elite 8 and getting to the Final Four out of that Midwest region. UCLA, let me, I got to keep going back and forth here looking for your guys' comments. So I don't want to get too far ahead of you. I didn't look. No, I didn't. I'm looking at my bracket right now. We'll look at them. We'll look at them later. You can post your winner if you want, Augustin. Tell me who you picked to win. I'll tell you who I picked to win before this is all over. We'll get to it pretty soon. UCLA. Since Mick Cronin got to UCLA in 2019, he's led UCLA to the Final Four, a Sweet 16, and now a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And before that, they hadn't been to a Final Four in over a decade. This is a storied franchise program, and they've been way down for quite a while. They're going to be led by Jamie Jaquez Jr., averaging 17 points and 8 rebounds a game. The problem is they're going to be without Jalen Clark, who's one of the best defenders in the country, to a foot injury. He's done for the year, as well as Adem Bona, who exited the Pac-12 semifinal against Oregon. And these 2 losses can't be overlooked, and it's going to be very tough for UCLA to go very far. And I will tell you that I have UCLA. Where are you, UCLA? Just had you, and you're down here probably. UCLA will beat UNC Asheville. Shouldn't be a problem. They will beat Northwestern, although Northwestern could be a scary game for them. And then I've got Gonzaga beating UCLA in the Sweet 16. I've also got Gonzaga beating UConn in the Elite 8, just an FYI for you and your UConn question there, Dave Guyette. Dave, if you want to click the link I put up, you can go fill out a bracket for the TGI Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. Number 2 seed, the last number 2 seed, Marquette Golden Eagles. They're still the Warriors to me, by the way. This is a team. Got to excuse me. I'm still not quite 100% here. They're still the Warriors to me. This is a team that I rooted for very, very heavily when I was a kid. Al McGuire was the head coach. They won an NCAA championship in 1977 in Al McGuire's last game. Marquette's played well. Picked 9th in the Big East this year. Shaka Smart is going to win a ton of Coach of the Year awards. This team has done very, very well. They rolled through the Big East tournament. They put on a clinic against Xavier in the final. They've got wins this year over Baylor, UConn, Xavier, Creighton. They're led by Cam Jones, who's blossomed in the second season. Also, James Mason trades for Tyler Kolek, has stepped up. And this team, and by the way, he hits 40% from 3, this Kolek kid. So, and this team plays really, really good defense, and they are very efficient on offense. They don't score a ton of points, but they play some pretty good defense. They, at least they did in a tournament. I mean, they did have a little bit of a problem inside the paint defending the basket. So that could hurt them if they match up with somebody with some size. But I will tell you right now that I have Marquette beating Vermont in round one. Excuse me. Beating Michigan State and Tom Izzo in round two. Beating Kansas State in the Sweet 16. Beating Memphis in the Elite Eight. And facing UConn. No, I got them facing Texas. Sorry. Texas. And winning it all. Marquette, your 2023 champions. And I haven't even got to the third seed yet. Baylor. And these are all teams still with a chance to win. All of the teams I've talked about so far have a chance to win this tournament. Baylor, Scott Drew coached a national championship team with a strong defensive crew and a great collection of veterans. Team was a little bit down last year, but this season his best player is a freshman. Keontae George, 16 points a game. He's a 6'4" projected lottery pick, so this could be a one-and-done season for him. And he's got the potential to carry Baylor a little ways, but I think Baylor – I don't have Baylor going that far. Where do I have Baylor? I may have Baylor going out in the first round. I can't remember. I'm trying to give you these picks as we go forward here, but it gets harder when I can't find where the seeds are. I want to tell you where I got Baylor going, and I can't. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Control F. Baylor. Control F doesn't work on a sucker. It would if I had the right keyboard. Control F. Baylor. All right, where we got Baylor? I've got Baylor losing in the first round to UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara had a great year out west in a league that's full of California state schools. UC Santa Barbara was 27-7, I think. I just feel like this team plays a really good up-tempo game. I think they can take advantage of Baylor's sometime loose defense, and I think UC Santa Barbara will win 2 games in this tournament. I have them beating both Baylor and Creighton in the second round. Oh, Purdue. We already talked about. Purdue. I'm back down here. Xavier, we already talked about. Sean Miller left UCLA under a cloud. He didn't waste any time raising expectations in a program that he led to some prominence before he went to Arizona. Back at Xavier, the Musketeers were picked to win the Big East this year. They finished behind. They and Creighton were the co-favorites kind of in the Big East this year. And he's got a very veteran squad. They didn't make the NCAAs last year in Sean Miller's first year back. They did win the NIT, though, and he's got most of that squad back. And they've got wins over teams in the tournament. Marquette, West Virginia, who I do not think belongs here, by the way. Creighton. And they beat UConn, a really good UConn team, twice. That's very hard to do. They've got a 6-year point guard. He shot 42% from 3 this year, Sully Baum. And I say all the time that veteran leadership in the backcourt is what wins these tournaments. And this is a team that's got it. And I've got Xavier going, I believe, to the let me look quick. I'll get to your comments here in just a second. I've got Xavier beating Kennesaw State in the first round, beating Iowa State in the second round, and getting beat by Texas in the round of 16. So we'll see how that goes. I do see Anthony Price is with us here. I appreciate you joining us, Anthony. You don't trust Houston? I don't either. I've got him going out. Anthony, if you weren't with me when I talked about Houston at the top of the show, I've got them going out in the second round against Iowa. I have Iowa beating Auburn in the first round. I think Iowa's got enough firepower. They played well enough. They got knocked out a little bit earlier than I like in the Big Ten tournament. but they got a veteran coach who's had his trouble in the tournament, has never gotten past around to 32 in Fran McCafferty, but it's a veteran team. They play good defense, and they can shoot the basketball. They've got the Murray twin that stayed at Iowa, didn't go to the NBA. They got Fran McCafferty's son back, playing well, shooting threes. This team, I think, will do some damage. I think they're going to beat Houston because I don't think Sasser's going to be 100%. I think there's a chance Houston, if I'm Houston and Kelvin Sampson, I may not play Sasser in the first round. I don't need him to win that first round game. I need him every game going forward. And I think they need to find a way to get him healthy. It does look like Alabama has an easy road, as we talked about. I'll look at the bracket real quick here, Anthony. I did pick Alabama. And, Anthony, if you have not gone to register for the bracket challenge with TGI Sports Talk, just look above in the comments and you'll see a link, or go to the TGI Sports Talk page and you'll see a post with a link to our ESPN brackets. Alabama, I've got going to the Final Four. The biggest pressure I think they will have is from outside with the things that have gone on off the court. As I said, Brandon Miller's got security follow him around to protect him during this tournament and then in the sites that they're going to go to. But Alabama, I think Anthony's right, has a pretty easy path. As I see them getting, obviously getting by Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And again, that game last night was so, I've never seen so many fouls in a game in my life. But they'll get by that game easy. Then they get the 8-9 winner, which I think will be Maryland. And even if it's West Virginia, who does not belong in this tournament, by the way, that should be an easy game for them. They get Virginia, most likely. I've got them, Virginia, getting through Furman and Virginia or San Diego State. It's not a good Virginia team. This isn't a one of Tony Bennett's best teams. It's not as good as a team that won a national championship. It's not even as good as a team that lost in the first round a couple of years ago as a 1 seed, the first time ever that's happened. Then they'll probably see Arizona in the Elite Eight. So I think Alabama's got a pretty easy walk to the Final Four, but I do see them losing to who do I have them losing to? Who matches up with them? They would play. How come I can't see? Oh yeah, they would play Texas. So I've got Texas beating them in the semifinals, and Texas losing to Marquette, as I said. So we'll go through some of these other. We'll take your comments too. We'll keep jumping around here a little bit. What do you got, Carlos? Good to have you with us, Carlos. You got Arizona winning it. Arizona's capable. I mean, there's 10 to 14 teams here that could win this tournament. Everybody I've talked about so far could win this tournament. I do have Arizona going out against Alabama. I believe that was in the Elite Eight. Sasser being hurt is very bad it is no bueno for Houston. And again, if I'm Kelvin Sampson, I may limit his minutes or not even play him at all in the first round against, who did I say they were playing in the first round? Northern Kentucky. They don't need him to beat Northern Kentucky, but they'll need him every game after that. And I've got Houston, as I said, losing in a second round to Iowa. Surprising Iowa. I expect Iowa to go on a run, and I'm going to have them getting beat most likely. I'm changing my pick right now, by the way. I had Iowa getting to the Elite Eight. I've got Miami going there now and getting beat by Texas. Let's go down to the other 3 seed, Gonzaga. As I've said, this is one of the most interesting stories in the tournament. This might be Mark Few's best coaching job. Everybody tried to write this team off, including me. I've tried to do it all year long. But Drew Timme, who's likely All-American, he averaged 21 points, 7 rebounds, and set the Gonzaga scoring record in doing so. And breakout forward Julian Strawther averaged 15 points a game. You know, they had some early stumbles. I thought they'd lose to St. Mary's. I thought they'd lose the regular season title and the tournament to St. Mary's, and they ended up beating them each time. A good St. Mary's team. I still think that their lack of depth and experience in a backcourt will hurt this team in the tournament. But I'm sorry, could hurt this team in the tournament. I am now a believer because I have Gonzaga. I have Gonzaga easily beating Grand Canyon. I have them beating one of my favorites, TCU. I have them beating UConn. And I have them. Where do I have them next? I got them in the Final Four. Losing to Marquette. My eventual national champion, by the way, Marquette. What do you got, Anthony? I got Alabama versus Gonzaga in the final. Did you make a pick in our tournament, our brackets, I hope, Anthony? I'm going to give you my picks tonight. They could change. I've changed a couple as we're talking tonight. But I'll only have one bracket. I know somebody's in there with a bunch of brackets, which is fine. We're playing for fun and bragging rights. But listen, I've got Gonzaga going to the Final Four, and I've been trying to bury them for months. Excellent. Do that. You can see it in the, like I said, in the comments here. You've got a link to it way up above there, Anthony, and also on the TGI Sports Talk page. You can see it. And I'll put in the comments again before we wrap it up. So I like Gonzaga to get to the Final Four, even though I do put a premium on that guard play. I think Mark Few's the best coach in the country. And I think he's done a great job with his team, probably his best coaching job. And Drew Timme just reminds me a lot of it, like a Dave Collins type. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he just won't be denied. So we'll see how that goes. Kansas State is the last number 3 seed. All these teams have got a chance. All these teams I've mentioned so far have a chance to win the whole thing in my mind. They snapped. Kansas State had a great team, great season this year. They snapped a 7-game losing streak against in-state rival Kansas. Jerome Tang stood on a table and he was sworn by KSU fans. And he had a message then: storm the court tonight, but don't do it again because this is the new normal. And that turned out to be the case. His first season leading the Wildcats after being an assistant at Baylor under Scott Drew, as we said, one of the better coaches in the country to learn under. He's established a new culture in Manhattan. And the Wildcats entered the postseason with 23 wins, and they won a couple in the Big 12 tournament. And this is a team that's fairly deep, but I don't think I have Kansas State going that far. I believe I have them losing to Marquette, as I mentioned earlier. So K-State will beat Montana State. I do have them beating Kentucky in the second round, but losing to Marquette in the round of 16. Virginia. I don't know what to say about Virginia. Virginia's been good at times. As usual, they play really good defense. But the ACC is just down this year. My Miami Hurricanes won the regular season title and then went out in the semifinals, I think, in the tournament. And Virginia did win. Excuse me. I'm sorry. They did not win the ACC tournament either. Duke won that. Duke's playing really good basketball. We'll see what they do. But it's a team that, again, finished in the top 3 in the ACC in defensive efficiency. There's familiarity. A lot of these kids have played together for quite a while. Tony Bennett's a really good coach. And I just think this is a team that, they could do some damage. I've got them going. Where do I have them going here? Virginia beating Furman, beating San Diego State. I may change that pick. I may take San Diego State in that game against Virginia. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. San Diego State, I will have beating Virginia in the second round. Change my mind right away. I'm going to do these number 4 picks and then I'll go back. Indiana is the next one. They played very, very well in good stretches here. Trace Jackson Davis had a great year this year, averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds a game, probably going to be an All-American. might be in the running for Player of the Year with Zach Edey. We'll see how that plays out. He's projected to be a first-round draft pick. And also Jalen Hood-Schifino. They like three names there in Indiana, apparently. He's also picked to be an NBA first-rounder. We'll see what happens. But this team, they do have wins over Xavier in non-conference. They swept both Purdue and Illinois. Sweeping Purdue is no small task. But they've been very up and down. Got beat by a red-hot Penn State team in the Big Ten tournament. So we'll see what they do. I've got them. Where do I have Indiana slated here? Sorry for my snuff. I'm just never going to get healthy again, guys, I don't think. So I apologize for that. Let's see if I can find Indiana. And where do I have them going? I got Indiana beating Kent State. And I've got Miami, the U, beating Indiana in the second round. UConn. Last time UConn was the number 3 seed. They went to a miraculous national title run, miraculous NCAA title run, led by Kemba Walker. This team feels like they feel like they had that same type of potential as a 4 seed. They did suffer 7 losses in league play. They had a big swoon in the middle of the season. They were number 2 in the country at one time, nearly fell out of the top 25, but they rebounded very, very well and played pretty good in the Big East tournament, going out in the semis, I believe. Danny Hurley's a really good coach. And this is a team that's ranked top 15, in offensive and defensive efficiency. So there's really nothing underdog about this UConn team. And I do have them going. Let's see, they're down in this bracket here, I believe. Playing in Albany, by the way. I've got them beating Iona and Rick Pitino. I just think the distractions for Iona will be too much. I'd like to pick Iona to win this game, but I think the distractions will be too much. And I've got them losing to VCU in the second round. So I have to change. I did say before I had Arkansas beating UConn in the Elite Eight, but that's a game. That's one of the games that I switched up. I put VCU, a red hot VCU team, to beat UConn here in the second round. Didn't realize I had to do that as well. Okay. Tennessee. How does Tennessee get a 4 seed, by the way? And Texas A&M gets a 7 seed. Texas A&M, the second best team in the SEC. Tennessee had a horrendous last month, played badly in the tournament. After the first round game, they did blow out Mississippi State, I believe. But this is a very physically imposing team, but they can't seem to put it together and win. Now they're first in defensive efficiency in the country, but they haven't been able to put the ball in the basket. Just 4-6 in their last 10 games. I don't think the Vols have a very good chance of going very far. And I've only got them going to, let's see, where do I have Tennessee? They got to be up here, don't they? I'll get to your comments if you've got some in a second. Let me go back to my search button because this is not working. We'll find them. Tennessee. I've got them losing in the first round to Louisiana. I like Louisiana a lot here. This is a 12-4. What is this, a 12-4 game? 13-4 game. I like Louisiana in this spot. Really do. And I think Tennessee is going to be the first of the number 4s to go down. What do you got here, Anthony? Kansas might be the first someone to get bounced out. I do have Kansas losing in a second round, I believe. Let's see. Yes, I have them getting beat by Arkansas in the second round, actually. So I don't disagree with that comment. Oral Roberts, you know what, Kenny? Welcome, Kenny. Glad to have you with us. Oral Roberts, by the way, still dissed, not in the top 25. I think they're dissed with the seeding that they got, a 12 seed. They should not be a 12 seed. They probably ought to be in the 8-9 game. Is where I would put Oral Roberts at this point. I would put them ahead of Arkansas and put them ahead of Auburn. I'm thinking some of the other 8-9 teams. I definitely would have them probably in that 8-9 matchup. And I think they're going to have a tough time against Duke. Duke's playing really well, coming together at the right time. John Shire's done a really good job. Oral Roberts is a live dog, but I've got Duke beating them in the first round. I could change that pick only because I don't have Duke going any further. Let me see. Do I have Duke going any further than the second round? See, I take it back. I took Oral Roberts in this bracket. I don't know what I'm doing here. I did. I think I switched off because I didn't like Duke to win another game. So I like both Oral Roberts and Louisiana to win first round games. I had to take myself back here, Kenny. They're going to have a very tough time here because Duke's playing very well. But this is a well-coached Oral Roberts team. They played very well except for one game all year. No really bad losses. All their losses out of conference, and all of them to teams that have been ranked, and all of them to teams that are in this tournament. So watch out. Kenny's right. And I have to back up. I've changed my bracket so many times. I forgot where I was with Oral Roberts. Who are you going to put in? I think Nevada belongs in a tournament myself. For the teams that were left out, Rutgers. I think the Mountain West gets very little credit, or not enough credit, I should say, Anthony. And I was happy to see this league get 4 bids in this tournament. I mean, that's kind of unheard of for them to get that number of bids. All Boise State, Nevada, San Diego State, and Utah State. And I may like all of them to win. I don't know. I do like Nevada's chances against Arizona State tonight, though. But I can listen. We all get into these discussions. I don't think Mississippi State belonged in a tournament last night. So everybody's got their opinions. I don't think West Virginia or Mississippi State belong in the tournament. And I think Nevada belongs in over them. And there could be teams that got left out. Rutgers is a team that comes directly to mind. I'm trying to think of somebody else. And Anthony, if you'll tell me who you think got left out that shouldn't have, I'd love to hear your comments there. Alan, I've not seen any team play, any playing team good enough to be in. I think that was Anthony, not Alan, but I get your point. The games I watched last night, no. That game was both those games were ugly. I mean, you're talking about 2 16 seeds in that first game. Ugly. Mississippi State loses a heartbreaker, but that team's not going to go anywhere either. Tennessee, no way. Tennessee's losing their first round to Louisiana. Tennessee's been playing horrible. A month ago, I would have told you that and I said it on the air. Maybe Rick Barnes' best team. You can't go 4-6 and then go, win one game in your conference tournament and expect me to pick you to win a game in the NCAA against a really good basketball team. That's why I wait until the last minute to do my bracket. I've been doing the same thing. That Duke, and I could change that Duke or Roberts pick again. That's one I keep wavering on. One I'm not wavering on is Louisiana and Tennessee, though. I can tell you that. John DeLon, welcome with us. Will Wade taking McNeese State. Thank you. I was trying to think of this. Who he took this job, by the way. He's going to still serve a 5-game suspension for the wrongdoings, which, by the way, is not nearly enough at LSU. But Will Wade is using McNeese State. Chris Beard is using Ole Miss just as a stepping stone to get back to a bigger job. And I don't think he's taking McNeese State to the Final Four next year, but maybe he'll get them into the tournament. Welcome, though. It's good to have you with me tonight, John, or with us. Rutgers got beat by Hofstra in the NIT. Nobody cares. Here's the thing. You get to the NIT, Rutgers doesn't care about playing. That's the problem with, I guess the good thing about the NIT is that some of these teams like Hofstra, who were not rewarded for a great regular season that they had in the A10, they're happy to be at the NIT and happy to still be playing basketball. Rutgers doesn't care. Rutgers wants to be in the NCAA tournament or go home. We see this type of thing a lot, where elite programs who get left out of the NCAA tournament do not play well in the NIT because they just don't care. Let's go to the 5 seeds. San Diego State. Last year, SDSU star Matt Bradley made 40% of his three-pointers. This year, he had a very cold start to the season. He was connecting just on 26 of those three-pointers during non-conference action. But when he got to the Mountain West schedule, he hit his stride. This team hit their stride, shooting 43% from three. This team rolled through their conference tournament. This is a really good basketball team, and I've got them winning. I've got them winning. I'm going to go through the brackets here in a second because I'm going to run out of time if I don't, but because we've kind of jumped around the brackets. But right now I've got San Diego State beating Charleston. Charleston's a lot of people's glamour pick, but this team hasn't beat a team in the top 100 all year. I've got them beating Virginia in the second round and getting beat by Alabama in the Sweet 16. So I'll go through the 5 seeds, then I'll come back to your guys' comments. Miami. I think Miami's a little bit under. I thought a 5 seed was a little low for Miami, but I think they're penalized by a little bit of a lackluster performance by the ACC overall this year. Clemson got hurt by that, by not making the tournament. Another team that I guess, Anthony, could be there above, say, Nevada or West Virginia or Mississippi State. Sorry, guys, we're still struggling here a little bit. But Miami's very athletic. They got a bunch of guys who can run up and down the floor. They can run with anybody. We'll see how much defense they play. Isaiah Wong is the key to this team. He won the ACC Player of the Year honors. I think he's probably making about $4 million in NIL money too. But we won't get in that topic tonight. He's also helped by Jordan Miller and Norshad Omir, who are all named to the ACC second and third teams, respectively. Their best wins this year came against Providence, Rutgers, Virginia, and Duke. The red-hot Duke. Don't count out Duke. And I just think this team's going to play well in this tournament. I've got a feeling they played well. Last year, I believe they made it to the Sweet 16. I've got this team beating Drake. Now, that Drake game in Albany here is going to be a great game. Drake is a really good mid-major. And quite honestly, if I wasn't a Miami fan, because of my stepson, thank you a lot, Eric, I'd probably pick Drake in this game. But I like Miami. And once they get by Drake, I think they'll beat Indiana. And I've got them beating Iowa and then getting beat by Texas in the Elite Eight. So I've got Miami getting to the Elite Eight. St. Mary's, a team that I thought was going to overtake Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference this year, both in a regular season and conference tournament. Did not happen in either case. But since Randy Bennett's been first season there in 2001, the Gales have reached a second weekend just once. I think that's going to change possibly this year. So we'll see how that plays out. Who are they? Where are they? Let's see. I may have to go right into the brackets here after this, so we'll see. St. Mary. Can't find them. St. Mary. All that beeping in my ears. Maryland. I don't want Maryland. St. Mary's. All right. Sorry. Again, another game that I got off of. St. Mary's, I think their late season swoon and VCU's late season rise is going to come into play here. And I've got VCU not just beating St. Mary's, but also beating UConn in the second round. and finally losing to Arkansas. May switch that game too. I might get VCU all the way to the Elite Eight against Gonzaga. We'll see about that. That's a turn. This is a bracket that I'm going to have to play around with again a little bit. But I do have VCU beating St. Mary's and UConn in the first 2 rounds. I'll probably stick with that, and we'll see where we go from there. The other 5 seed is Duke. Duke, after a 5-4 start, we started to think maybe John Shire wasn't the right guy, or he was going to have the same kind of struggles that Hubert Davis had last year in his first year with North Carolina. We know what happened late in the season for that team. The same thing happened to Duke. The criticism came early when he was 5-4, but it didn't last. They got healthy. Jeremy Roach, Derek Lively II, Dariq Whitehead, all missed key stretches due to injuries, but they gained momentum once they got healthy. And they were joined by Kyle Flipowski, if I'm saying that even close. He's been a bit of a wonderkin. And they have won over, again, Iowa, Miami, Xavier, and they played really, really well in the ACC tournament. And I've got Duke. I don't know. This is a game. And right now I've got them losing to Oral Roberts. But I've switched that game back and forth a bunch of times. So let me get back to your comments here. Again, right. UNC, you know what? I would have put people at UNC dead, right, in the NCAA tournament, Anthony. But that's a team that I would have put in the tournament. I would not have West Virginia in. I would not have Mississippi State in. Maybe I wouldn't have Nevada in. I don't know. I think Nevada's deserving, but those other 2 teams certainly are not deserving. But again, UNC, what do they care about the NIT? You know, the NIT has very little drawing power later. Drake does lack depth. They got a really good backcourt, though, as I said. That's one of the things that scares me. You know how I feel about veteran backcourts and athletic backcourts in this tournament. This is the way you can make some hay. I'm going to go through the brackets now real quick. Excuse me. And I'll give you all my picks. First round. In East. Purdue. This is the first round. Purdue beats FDU. I've got FDU winning tonight. Memphis over FAU. Again, Memphis is playing some of the best basketball in the country right now. They beat Houston, or they just full strength. They just lost to Houston at home the week before the conference tournament. Then they just rolled through the conference tournament, really played well against an undermanned Houston team without Sasser to win the final. But Memphis and Penny Hardaway are on a roll, and I like Memphis to go a little ways here. Right now, I've got Oral Roberts upsetting Duke. I've got Louisiana upsetting Tennessee. I've got Kentucky over Providence. I've got Kansas State over Montana State. Yeah, I've got Michigan State over USC, and Marquette will roll over Vermont. In the second round in the East, I've got Memphis over number 1 Purdue. So the number ones I've got dropping like flies in the second round. 3 of them out. I've got I'm in the East, right? Okay. I've got Oral Roberts over Louisiana. So I've got Oral Roberts getting to the Sweet 16. Sorry. Kansas State over Kentucky, and Marquette over Michigan State. In the Sweet 16 in the East, I've got Memphis beating Oral Roberts. I've got Marquette over Kansas State. In the Elite Eight conference final, or the bracket final, East bracket final, Marquette over Memphis in a hard-fought battle, getting to the Final Four. In the South, I've got Alabama beating Tennessee. Maryland over West Virginia, who I do not think belongs in this tournament, I will say one more time. San Diego State over Charleston. Virginia over Furman. Although Furman's a live dog in this game, they're probably the worst team Virginia could play in this tournament because they play the same way. Creighton with a good late season surge. They were one of the consensus picks to win the Big East. Got off to a bad start. Really turned it on near the end of the season. Played well. Got to the conference semifinals. I like Creighton over NC State. I like UC Santa Barbara over Baylor in an upset. I like Utah State in an upset over Missouri. And I like Arizona over Princeton. In the round of 32, I've got Alabama easily over Maryland. I've got San Diego State over Virginia. I've got USCB, Cal State, Santa Barbara over Creighton. And I've got Arizona over Utah State. In the Sweet 16, I've got Alabama beating San Diego State, Arizona beating Cal State, Santa Barbara. So we get the chalk in the conference or the bracket final. Alabama beats Arizona to be the only number one seed I've got going to the Final Four. And I'll take your comments after I get done here, and we'll go back and look at anything you want to talk about. In the Midwest, Houston gets by Northern Kentucky. Iowa over Auburn. I like Iowa. I'm not a big – listen, Bruce Pearl's had – this is a talented Bruce Pearl Auburn team, but this team's been up and down. Injuries have hurt them. They've been very inconsistent, haven't shot the ball well. I don't think they're going to play well here. And I think Fran McCaffrey overcomes some of those tournament demons, never getting out of the round of 32. I've got Miami over Drake, although Drake is a live dog here. I've got Indiana over Kent State. Iowa State over Pittsburgh. Not terribly impressed with their win last night, as I said, over Memphis State. Xavier easily over Kennesaw State. Texas A&M over Penn State. Texas over Colgate. I think Colgate might stay in this game for a half or a little better, but I think Texas will win out. And the round of 32, Iowa over Houston. Put those comments up, guys, and we'll don't think I'm going to ignore them because I'll come back to them, as you know. I've got Iowa over Houston, another number one out in the second round. I've got Miami over Indiana, 5-4. Xavier, 3 seed over 6 seed Iowa State. And I've got Texas A&M. I flip-flopped on this game a couple times, guys. But right now I've got Texas over Texas A&M. And in the Sweet 16, I've got Miami beating Iowa. I've got Texas over Xavier. And I've got Texas in the bracket final, beating Miami and getting to the Final Four as a 2 seed. So I've got a 1 seed and a 2 seed in so far. And I've got two 2 seeds in Marquette and Virginia. And I've got Texas in also. In the West, I've got Kansas over Howard, Arkansas over Illinois. I think Arkansas matches up good against Kansas, by the way, as you'll see in the next round. I've got VCU over St. Mary's. I've got UConn over Iona. Iona's a live dog here in Albany, though. TCU over the Nevada-Arizona State winner. I like Nevada tonight, as I said. I know Anthony does not. Gonzaga over Grand Canyon, the revived Gonzaga Bulldogs. Northwestern over Boise State, and UCLA over UNC Asheville. In the round of 32, Arkansas beats number 1 Kansas. So I got 3 number 1s going out in the second round. VCU beats UConn, 12-4. Gonzaga, the 3 over, what is TCU? Can't read, 6, I think. Gonzaga beats TCU, and UCLA does find a way to get by Northwestern, even with all their injuries. But in the Elite 8, I'm sorry, this is the, so what am I? That's round of 32. In the Sweet 16, I've got Arkansas getting by VCU, and I've got UCLA losing to Gonzaga. So I've got Gonzaga beating Arkansas in the bracket final. So that's my Final Four is... What did I say it was? Marquette, Gonzaga, Texas, and Arizona. I've got Marquette beating. They're going to play. Who are they going to play here? Marquette's going to play Alabama and win. And Texas is going to beat Gonzaga. It'll be Marquette against Texas. And I've got Marquette winning this game and put my tiebreaker in. 76-75. How about that? Let's see who disagrees. What do you guys got? Tell me who you got, who you like, and I'll tell you why I don't like them. All right. Carlos, Memphis is good. Penny Hardaway has really got a solid team here. Playing in the 8-9 seed. This team is better than that. We talked about Oral Roberts being better in the 12. Memphis is better in the seeding they've got. I do have USC losing in the first round for sure. Who are they playing, John? Again, I've got Marquette winning. Wants to tell me over and over again. I got Michigan State and Tom Izzo beating USC. I think the veteran coach gets it done here against USC. Anthony, I hate Duke. Hope they won't make the Elite Eight. As I said, I've got Duke going out first round against Oral Roberts. I've been swapping back and forth on that one. I know Kenny's been all over Oral Roberts for a long time here, and I'm still with him myself. So let's see. Anthony's got Alabama winning. That's the chalk. They're the number 1 seed. It does happen. It doesn't often happen. You know what happens, and you'll see it in my picks. And everybody wants to see upsets in the first round, right? First couple of rounds. We like that. We like to see those upsets. So does TV, by the way. But as the tournament goes on, usually the chalk starts to come back to the top. I do have the chalk, 3 of the chalk teams going out in the first 2 rounds, though. So Alabama's the only one I got surviving. I do have 2 number 2 seeds, and I have a 3 seed in Gonzaga getting there. So not going too far out on a limb late, but early, I've got a lot of double-digit seeds winning over some of the favorites. What else is going on around the world of college basketball? Let's take a quick look at some of the news. You know, I got to see something in my email here. Hang on one second. I'll be on with Robert Butler, by the way, at the bottom of the hour. I'm sure we'll talk some NCAA basketball and some other things. Probably NFL free agents. I don't have an invite. I thought I was going on with Nick Bodkins at 8:30, but I don't see any invite, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do there. Anyway, other news going on in the world of college basketball. I talked about this before. Brandon Miller is going to have armed security due to threats. I mean, look at. I'm very torn on whether Brandon Miller should even be on this team. I have a hard time believing he didn't, look, he delivered a gun. The guy asked him to deliver a gun. Did he know the guy was going to murder somebody? No, but if he wants a gun, I got to ask him why. But at the same time, people shouldn't be threatening this kid's life. This is a sad situation all the way around. And don't make it any better on a kid that we don't know what he didn't do. I mean, he didn't do the right thing, I wouldn't say. But let's not be threatening his life. Kansas's Norm Roberts, who filled in for Bill Self and did a pretty good job. Norm Roberts, former head coach at St. John's, by the way. He says that Bill Self's getting better by the day. And the team and Bill Self are very hopeful that he'll be on the bench when they begin their tournament run. Are they playing Friday? Thursday. They're playing against Howard in their first round game. So we'll see how that turns out. I talked a little about Ryan Odom. He says only a special group, this UMBC that had the historic upset of Virginia 3 years ago, I want to say now. I lose track of time. That's a 5th anniversary. Oh, my God. 5 years have passed since UMBC beat Virginia, first 16 to beat a 1. Now he's got Utah State, a really good Utah State team, by the way, playing against Missouri in the first round. They're a 10 seed against a 7. I like them to win again. And it's an interesting, he's got an interesting perspective from where he's been. He knows anything can happen in this tournament. I talked about Chris Beard getting introduced at Ole Miss today as the new head coach. I think, again, another guy along with Will Wade who's kind of just using this current job to get somewhere else. And typically, he didn't discuss any specifics, or he sidestepped pretty much every question about his firing at Texas and the domestic violence charges that were first levied, then dropped. Listen, I understand you're innocent until you're proven guilty in this country, but something happened. He put his hands on a woman. To me, there's very little doubt about it. I don't care if she dropped the charges or not. I have zero respect for any man who puts his hand on a woman. So this guy couldn't be more vilified in my mind. And I hope he never gets a really good job again. The All-American team was named today, by the way, since I started talking about that. The first team was Zach Edey, that we've already talked about, Brandon Miller, who we talked about, Jalen Wilson, Trace Jackson Davis, Marcus Sasser, all guys that we talked about pretty in depth tonight. Second team was Jaime Vasquez Jr., Drew Timme from Gonzaga, as we talked about, Oswalas Tubulis, Oscar Tishuiba, probably butchering these names, and Jalen Pickett. I didn't talk about this with Penn State, but I think Penn State, who I've got losing in the first round, Jalen Pickett, if you know his story, he started here at Siena in my backyard and was a really, really good player there and left right after, I think, the COVID season. And he's become a really, really good player. The third team was Armando Bacot, Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel, Tyler Kolek, and Chris Murray from Iowa. As we said, his twin brother helped lead this Iowa team last year, had a very disappointing showing in the tournament. And I do think that they'll rebound from that this tournament. So we'll see how that goes. Will Wade, we talked about, signed a deal with McNeese State. He'll serve a 5-game suspension, likely an attempt. It's funny. What's funny is McNeese State has decided to suspend Wade. So they hire him to be their coach. They suspend him for the first 5 games, hoping that they can mitigate any looming NCAA sanctions that may be stemming from Wade's time at LSU, where, the lack of institutional control was just ridiculous. So we'll see how that works out. What do you got here, John? Well, I don't know. I mean, there were reports that when the police did show up that she had marks on her neck. Again, she dropped the charges. So evidence. I'm a big believer. I do give people the benefit of the doubt. To me, there's enough to this story that I believe, it doesn't matter. You can tell me I'm wrong, that you don't believe it. That's fine. That he did physically do something to this woman, who was at the time his fiancée. So I don't know whether she still is, but she did drop the charges. But just because the charges were dropped does not mean nothing happened. So again, it's all up to your own interpretation. And, I just don't have any respect for the guy. I don't. I try, and there's so much going on with the men. It's hard to kind of talk about it here. I'd like to. South Carolina obviously goes into this as a big favorite, right? We've certainly up in our area had UConn for a lot of years with Gino Auriemma being a big favorite. I know Notre Dame is always very good. We'll cover it a bit. Anthony, if there's something you want to dive into, you can certainly, drop me a note and we can certainly address the topic. And we'll go through the scores next week when we're catching up with the tournaments. We can certainly do that. They hired Wade, had a pep rally introducing him, then suspended him for the first 5 games the next day. Right? That's what I'm saying. I mean, so it's obvious here. They know they've hired a guy with, the laser target is on his back, and they're hoping that the NCAA sees them suspend them themselves for 5 games, and it will mitigate whatever sanctions might be coming from them. But the NCAA is going to do whatever they're going to do. And I still think, the things that went on, as far as impermissible payments, cash payments that went to at least 11 men's basketball and prospective student athletes, their family members, individuals associated with the prospects, and or non-scholastic coaches in exchange for the prospects' enrollment in LSU. The charges were he arranged for, offered, and or provided all of those payments. And if the NCAA finds out this is true, then that 5 games is not going to stop more from coming down on Will Wade. I think that is the timeline. It's exactly the timeline. It's very odd. Yeah, look at McNeese State. What do they got to lose by hiring a Will Wade? What's Ole Miss got to lose by hiring a Chris Bird or Chris Beard? Look at, they're both good basketball coaches. Good basketball coaches are going to get jobs. Rick Pitino got another job. Rick Pitino's going to be coaching in major college basketball again next year. So, at the end of the day, as long as you don't kill somebody, you'll get another job. Texas Southern mounting a comeback. What's the score there? I think I had this up here. What do we got? What day is it? Wednesday? Is that it? 55-44. They better get going. How much time left? 9 minutes and 24 seconds on my clock here. John DeLong. I think the NCAA mostly wanted LSU to fire Wade. They seem to have turned down the heat. They have turned down the heat since he's been gone. You're certainly right. But again, they might have been just waiting for him to surface again. And if they smell blood in the water here and they've got it out for Will Wade bad enough, that 5 games won't deter them from doing something more major to him. I didn't say it was guaranteed that he'd be at St. John's, but he'll be either at St. John's, Georgetown, Texas Tech. Rick Pitino will not be at Iona next year. Regardless of the fact that when he came here, he said it'd be his last job. And he's done a good job with Iona, and he doesn't, they gave him a job when nobody else would. But he's 70 years old, 70-something years old, I think now. I think he wants one more shot at the big time. He's not going to win a national championship at Iona. I think he might want to go someplace where he thinks he can build a program. I do think Rick Pitino and St. John's would be a perfect marriage. But money might be a problem. Recruiting at St. John's is not easy. Although Mike Brown, not Mike Brown, Mike Anderson did a really good job recruiting at St. John's. He just didn't do a very good job coaching. Where's the link? Here, let me put it. I'll put it right here in the comments again. So I'm going to lose all your comments, so I'll have to go back to them. I'll get back to your guys' comments. You're going to see like 6 things come up here because every place there you go. Any one of those links will take you to the page, Anthony. I think he can stay at Iona, but he's not going to. If he gets an offer from any of the schools I just mentioned or any of the jobs that come open, I mean, there's also, let's see, what other jobs are in jeopardy of coming open here? Where's my, Cal, if he wants to go out west, Cal's open. Mark Fox got fired. He can come to Albany and coach. Dwayne Killings is going to get fired. Just kidding. Josh Pastner got fired at Georgia Tech. There's another school. It's ACC. I don't know if that's where he wants to go, but again, big time opening. Oregon State could come open. Georgetown's open. Stanford could come open. Another tough place to win. I'm trying to look at some schools that possibly would attract him. Mike Hopkins at Washington. I don't know if Rick Pitino wants to coach on the West Coast, though. That's the only thing. He's an East Coast guy. I mean, he did coach in the South of Kentucky and Louisville, obviously. But to me, Syracuse, we know, is filled. Jeff Capel's not losing his job at Pittsburgh. That might have been a good spot for him, but Jeff Capel's going to keep his job now that he's won, especially now that he's won a playing game. Nebraska might come open. NC State likely is safe. Kevin Keach should be safe. I'm not sure about Jerry Stackhouse at Vanderbilt, but to me, Texas Tech would be a good spot for Rick Pitino. Georgetown would probably be a good spot for Pitino, but St. John's would be made in heaven. If you don't keep up with the investigation into Wade, it's kind of messed up how they handled it. The NCAA held lack of institutional control charges over the Tigers football program until Wade was fired. Well, listen, when the NCAA wants to act, they act like bullies, and often they don't act at all. But listen, there was some lack of institutional control with the football team as well. We all know that under Coach Orgeron. Dan Harris, great to have you with us from Let's Talk Sports. Check out all Dan's shows. Dan, just if you're still with me, Dan, Nick had wanted me to come on at 9 o'clock. I don't have any link to get there, though. I'm going to be on with Robert Butler at 8:30, and I told Nick I'd pop in at 9, but I don't have any invite, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's there now. Hold on. Nope, I'm not seeing anything. So if you want to shoot him a message, because I don't know that I'm going to have a chance. I don't want to leave him hanging, but I don't have a way to get in unless he. Well, you know what? I wonder if he. No, I don't have anything there either. He doesn't have my emails. Check an email me. I guess he probably messaged me the other night. So anyway, what else we got here comment wise? Who's your boy? Your boy didn't lose his job at ASPU, Austin P University, home of the Fighting PUs. I don't know. What's their nickname? I don't even know. Corey Gibson. There you go. Former class. How did you know I was going to ask you that? Former classmate of yours and player returned to ASPU. Well, good. I know it's not ASPU. I just like saying that. Don't beat me up. What else we got here? John Stamos can coach at Cal. Listen, what they win 3 games this year? Mark Fox is lucky he lasted this long. Again, I don't see Pitino going west. Washington's got a lot of possibilities. Mike Hopkins he might hold his job there, but I think Mike Hopkins might be out of there. That's going to be a good spot for somebody. Stamos played a coach on Disney Channel show. Well, there you go. I know a lot of guys who have played coaches in the NCAA. Will Wade's one of them. FDU not allowing Southern team to come back. I like FDU. Nick Botkins. Yeah, Nick had asked me to pop in at 9 o'clock. Well, he wanted me to come in at 8:30, but I already committed to Robert. So, I mean, if he doesn't need me, that's fine, Dan. But if he wants, I don't have a link. So, what do you got, John? You'll never prove. Well, no. Well, listen. You could probably prove pretty much anything you wanted against a lot of programs without Orgeron's cooperation. He was paid $15 million to keep his mouth shut. Good point. Excellent point. All right. Well, that's fine. I don't have a problem popping in there at 9. I just wasn't sure if you still wanted me to pop in, which I certainly don't mind doing. I'll be going on with Robert here in just a few minutes. What else we want to talk about, guys? What else you got? Marquette, overall winner, Shaka Smart. best coach in America this year. Been some great coaching jobs in America this year, hasn't there? I mean, gosh. Who else has done great jobs this year? Hold on. Boy, we all know Nate Oates has done a great job, but what hurts him is the outside nonsense going on. Just going down a list of some coaches. Tommy Lloyd's done a great job in his second year at Arizona. Bobby Hurley, I don't think has done a bad job at Arizona State, but he could be in trouble. Eric Musselman, Arkansas had some injury issues. Not Musselman's best showing this year, so I can't put him in that conversation. Well, I'll tell you a couple of guys that I can. Where are we here? Give me some coaches you think have done a good job, guys, and I'll give you mine. Well, definitely the coach at Kansas State. Well, Rodney Terry, I think, has done a good job at Texas under some very difficult circumstances. The K-State coach, where is he? I forgot his name now. Jerome Tang. Been around the game a long time, getting his first shot at being a head coach. Done a great job. Fran Dunphy's back at LaSalle. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I'm going down the coaches here. Jim Larangara has done a great job in Miami. And I know they got a lot of NIL money and all that, but whatever. Jim Larangara, listen, he's one of the best coaches and most underrated coaches in the country. And maybe the guy who looks the most like Jim Boeheim that's left in college basketball. Richard Pitino turned New Mexico around a little bit. They did stumble quite a bit near the end of the season, but he did a pretty good job overall. Rick Pitino's done a great job at Iona. They come in with, I think, they might have the longest winning streak in the country right now. But they're going to get beat by UConn, I think, for sure. Anyway, but Jeff Capel's done a good job at Pittsburgh. He was going to be one of the first coaches fired this year. He's done a really good job. He's still listed on the hot seat. I don't know how that can be. Sean Miller, again, left Arizona under clouds, done a great job at Xavier. But whatever, there's a lot of guys here, and I think Shaka Smart is just the number one guy. Picked to finish 9th in the Big East. I thought we had another comment here, but I guess we don't. So anyway, guys, we are heading for March, real March Madness. It started obviously with the conference tournaments, and we didn't really have any bid stealers per se. But the conference tournaments were exciting as always, and I expect this to be a great weekend of basketball. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, wall-to-wall NCAA basketball. If you're in the Albany area, get to the Times Union Center. Don't nick a box to me. But enjoy it. It's a great, great weekend. Guys, I'm going to pop off here now. We're going to go on with Robert Butler. If you want to tune into Sports Scopes, you can see me, and Robert's probably going to surprise me in what we're talking about. But I'm going to jump over there, and I'll see you all next week with the College Sports Huddle, and we'll be recapping all of this stuff. So enjoy. Thanks, John. Have a great, great weekend. Good luck to Will Wade down there in that 5-game suspension. Keith Engel, out.